The gentleman from Charlottesville, Mr. Toscano.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaking in the bill.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House, budgets are a process. We're pretty long ways down the road in the process. I don't think we're there yet, and I hope you'll indulge me a few minutes while I'll tell you why. First, I think it's important just to go through a little bit about how we got here. We had a governor's budget introduced on the first day of session, and in that budget, it had a lot of things that none of us on either side of this aisle really liked. It had some pretty draconian cuts in the Health and Human Services area. It shortchanged education in ways that we couldn't support. So what did we do? A lot of us on this side of the aisle and a lot of you on your side of the aisle raised pretty substantial questions about those funding priorities. And we worked through it and we changed them. And that was a good thing, and it's something to celebrate. Now, for some of us on this side, we don't think maybe it was changed enough, but you have a limited amount of money, you do the best you can, so it represents an improvement. It represented an improvement in the Health and Human Services area, where I think a lot of the priorities on both sides of the aisle to make sure is that the most vulnerable are cared for. And there are various things that we requested as part of the budget debate that showed up in the conference report. That's testament to the good work we've done on this side of the aisle and to the work that the conference report did. And they're not just about human services. We had made a proposal on this side to increase funding for advanced manufacturing. Showed up in the budget conference report. That is a good thing. But you know, it's not everything. And we have a chance to get everything if we just work a little bit harder to get it. 2 weeks ago, we were down here to vote on a budget, and at that time I rose to speak for that budget. And one of the reasons why I spoke for that budget is it did have some provisions for transportation that are not in the conference report. And make no mistake about it, that's what we're arguing about now. Most of us have come to grips and come to closure on a lot of the stuff in the budget. Maybe it doesn't reflect all our priorities, but there is one sticking point that remains, and that is this transportation money. And it has to do with funding to help folks in Hampton Roads and helping folks in Northern Virginia. So here's a guy from Charlottesville, a relatively rural area, getting up and arguing for things to be included in the budget that will help people that have marginal relationship to my part of the world. Why would I do that? Why should we all do that? The reason is that we are a commonwealth, and we have a duty to help support folks in other parts of the state who need our help. So let's talk about Hampton Roads for a minute. Let's talk about that project. The Hampton Roads project is going to cost, as the gentleman from Fairfax said, about $2.1 billion. It will have tolls, starting out at an amount of, I think, $1.84, something like that, rising with the cost of living to $2.68 perhaps in 10 years. And think about that, and think about how many people go through those toll facilities every day. I think the number is over 120,000 people. Beyond that, think about the people who use those tolls. The median income of the folks who use those tolls is not the same as the median income of a lot of people in the Commonwealth of Virginia. It is below that. And think about your family and what the impact would be on your family if you had to pay that toll going back and forth, back and forth. That is pretty heavy duty for people who live in Hampton Roads. But it's not just Hampton Roads, as the delegate from Fairfax pointed out. There's the Dulles Rail Corridor. And he started to talk about the tolls, and here's a chart with the tolls, and I think the trend line is up. And it starts from a point that is not cheap in the first place. How do you get these tolls down? It's pretty simple. You invest more of the state's dollars. Okay, next question. Mr. Toscano, there you go, raising taxes again. All right, so to respond to that right off the bat, you don't have to raise taxes to get that money. There are a number of projects in the Commonwealth of Virginia that are not yet shovel-ready, but have allocations attached to them. Some of them are pretty expensive projects. $400 million, $500 million. A question of priorities. When you do not embrace the notion of buying down tolls in Hampton Roads and for the Dulles toll roads, you are making a choice. And your choice is to not support those two projects and to support other projects instead. It's not about raising taxes, my friends. So Dulles, the major economic development project now going on in the Commonwealth of Virginia. You saw the Peace and Governing magazine, #1 in the country. What about Northern Virginia? It's not just about transportation. You know, we've heard that lingo, transportation is important, but, well, transportation is important and the and is economic development. Northern Virginia helps every single jurisdiction in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Again, I'm not from Northern Virginia, but I recognize how the dollars flow. And I recognize how they flow into a lot of rural areas that are poor, who would have to burden their taxpayers to raise taxes to fund their schools if Northern Virginia didn't kick in their share. This investment of transportation dollars helps economic development in Northern Virginia and can help people throughout the Commonwealth as that money is spread around. So that's why, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think we should support this budget. We have a chance to get it right. We cannot wait until next year. The money is available. I ask that you vote no on the conference report.